In the world of WWE, change is the only constant. Superstars rise and fall, allegiances shift like desert sands, and careers are forged and broken in the blink of an eye. But every so often, a transformation occurs that is so profound, so jarring, it transcends the typical heel or face turn. It's a fundamental shift in a character's very essence, a metamorphosis that leaves fans questioning everything they thought they knew. This is the story of such a transformation, the story of how a vibrant, energetic, fan-adored underdog who fought with every fiber of her being to reach the top was unmade and remade into something cold, calculated, and terrifying. This is the story of Liv Morgan's shocking metamorphosis. Our journey begins not with the darkness, but with a splash of color and chaos. When Gianna Daddio first arrived in NXT, she was a work in progress, a Jersey girl with raw athletic talent and a bubbly personality. But her true introduction to the wider WWE Universe came in November 2017. Alongside Ruby Riott and Sarah Logan, she exploded onto SmackDown as part of the Riott Squad. Liv Morgan was the firecracker of the group, the energetic ball of blonde hair and a signature blue tongue, a living embodiment of punk rock energy. She was chaos, but it was a joyous, rebellious chaos. Her role was clear. She was the loyal, albeit wild, follower. She took the bumps, created the distractions, and celebrated her leaders' victories. For years, this was her identity. She was one-third of a whole, a crucial part of the squad, but rarely the focal point. The Riott Squad was beloved for their authenticity and unique presentation, but when the group inevitably disbanded, Liv, like so many others broken from a faction, found herself lost at sea. This began the most arduous and, for her fans, frustrating period of her career. WWE Creative didn't seem to know what to do with the vibrant young star. She was drafted to SmackDown, then to Raw, floating in the lower mid-card with no clear direction. We were teased with vignettes promising a change. A makeover was coming. The videos were slickly produced, showing Liv in the rain, speaking cryptically about not being her true self, promising to reveal the real Liv Morgan. The anticipation built. Fans who had followed her since her NXT days were ready. They were ready for her breakout moment, for the company to finally strap the rocket to her back. What they got was one of the most bizarre and universally panned storylines of the modern era. She returned on the final Raw of 2019, crashing the wedding of Bobby Lashley and Lana, proclaiming her love for Lana. The angle was a mess. It felt forced, out of character, and was quickly abandoned, leaving Liv right back where she started. Adrift. She was directionless, a character with no anchor. She briefly reunited with a returned Ruby Riott, but the magic wasn't quite the same, and that too fizzled out. For any other performer, this could have been the end. A series of creative misfires, a failure to launch. It's a story we've seen countless times. But for Liv Morgan, it was fuel. Something shifted during this period of uncertainty. While creative may have been lost, the fans were not. They saw the passion. They saw the heart. In every short match, in every backstage digital exclusive, they saw a woman giving her absolute all, desperate to prove she belonged. A groundswell of organic support began to form. It wasn't manufactured, it was real. The WWE Universe, particularly the online community, adopted her as their chosen one. They saw the untapped potential, the charisma, the unique connection she forged. They began to demand more for her. And slowly, painstakingly, Liv began to build a new identity, brick by brick, not from a writer's room, but from her own heart and the cheers of the crowd. This was the birth of the Watch Me era. The character became an extension of the real-life struggle. Liv Morgan was no longer just a wrestler. She was an underdog narrative personified. She was the one who was always counted out, always overlooked, but who refused to stay down. Her promos became more passionate, her in-ring style more desperate and fiery. She wasn't the most polished technician, but she wrestled with a palpable sense of urgency. Every move, Every near fall felt like it was life or death. The fans felt it because it was authentic. They were watching her fight not just her opponent in the ring, but her position on the card. Her fashion evolved, too, becoming more vibrant, a kaleidoscope of colors inspired by pop culture icons, resonating with a younger demographic. She was relatable. She was real. And her connection with the audience grew into a deafening roar. In 2022, that roar became undeniable. At the Money in the Bank Premium Live event, she entered the titular ladder match as a sentimental favorite, but few truly believed it was her time. She was up against bigger, more established names. But that night in Las Vegas, the narrative of her career reached its first crescendo. In a moment of breathtaking drama, she scrambled atop the ladder, fending off her competitors, and with tears welling in her eyes, she unhooked the briefcase. The explosion from the crowd was seismic. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated catharsis. A victory not just for the character, but for the fans who had championed her for so long. The story could have ended there. The Money in the Bank winner often waits months for the right moment. Liv Morgan waited less than 2 hours. Later that night, after Ronda Rousey had barely survived a war with Natalya for the SmackDown Women's Championship, Liv's music hit. The crowd erupted once more. Sprinting to the ring, briefcase in hand, she cashed in. It wasn't a clean victory. Rousey immediately caught her in an ankle lock, and for a terrifying moment, it looked like the fairy tale was about to become a nightmare. But Liv, in a testament to her character's resilience, targeted Rousey's injured leg, rolled through, and pinned the baddest woman on the planet for the 1-2-3. The image of Liv Morgan, sobbing uncontrollably as she clutched the SmackDown Women's Championship, is etched into the memory of modern wrestling fans. It was the culmination of a 7-year journey. It was the ultimate underdog story. The girl who was lost in the shuffle was now the champion. Her title reign was defined by heart. She successfully defended the title against Rousey at SummerSlam, albeit controversially, further solidifying her reputation as a champion who would do anything to keep her dream alive. She was the people's champion in every sense of the word. She was living proof that with enough heart and determination, you could achieve anything. But in WWE, fairy tales rarely last forever, and the end of Liv Morgan's fairy tale was brutal. At Extreme Rules, she faced Ronda Rousey again, this time in an Extreme Rules match. This match was a turning point, the beginning of the end for the Liv we knew. To prove she was more than just a lucky underdog, Liv embraced the stipulation with a disturbing glee. She smiled as she was brutalized with a baseball bat. She laughed as she dove from the top of a structure, crashing through a table below. She was trying to prove she was extreme, that she was worthy. But in the end, she was no match for Rousey's killer instinct. Trapped in a vicious submission, Liv Morgan didn't tap out. Instead, she passed out, a defiant, unsettling smile creeping across her face as she lost consciousness and her championship. Something broke in Liv Morgan that night. The loss wasn't just a loss. It was an annihilation of her dream. The smile as she passed out wasn't one of defiance. It was a sign of a mental snap. The bubbly, energetic underdog was gone, replaced by a void. In the weeks that followed, she became erratic and unpredictable. She would attack people backstage with glee, put Sonya Deville through a table, and show a penchant for violence that was no longer about fighting from underneath, but about inflicting pain for the sake of it. This was Extreme Liv, a darker, more unhinged version of herself. She found a temporary home in a tag team with the powerful Raquel Rodriguez, and they even captured the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships, but it felt like a detour. The darkness was still simmering beneath the surface, waiting. Then, disaster struck in the form of a real-life shoulder injury, forcing her to relinquish the tag titles and vanish from television for months. In wrestling, an injury is often a curse, halting momentum and forcing a superstar to the back of the line. For Liv Morgan, It became the chrysalis for her most shocking transformation yet. When she returned, something was fundamentally different. The vibrant colors were gone, replaced by muted tones and eventually all black. The energetic entrance was replaced by a slow, deliberate walk. The infectious smile was gone, replaced by a cold, empty stare or a condescending smirk. This wasn't extreme Liv anymore. This wasn't about chaotic violence. This was something colder, more intelligent, more sinister. This was the Liv Morgan Revenge Tour. The target of this tour was clear: Rhea Ripley, the woman who had injured her. But Liv's approach was completely new. She wasn't seeking a straight-up fight. She was playing mind games. Her promos were no longer fiery appeals to the audience. They were quiet, menacing threats delivered with an unnerving calm. She spoke of taking everything from Rhea, not just her championship, but everything she loved. And that's when the tour took its most personal and stunning turn: Dominic Mysterio. She began to insert herself into the orbit of the Judgment Day, specifically targeting Dirty Dom. Her flirtations were overt, uncomfortable, and utterly captivating. She whispered in his ear, draped herself over him, and looked at him with an obsession that unsettled everyone, including Dominic himself. This was a masterclass in psychological warfare. She wasn't trying to steal him in a romantic sense. She was using him as a weapon, a pawn to mentally dismantle the seemingly unbreakable Rhea Ripley. She wore Ripley's studded belt as a trophy. She began wearing purple and black, the colors of the Judgment Day, mocking their aesthetic. The culmination of this phase of her revenge came after WrestleMania, where Rhea Ripley was forced to vacate her Women's World Championship due to an injury sustained in a backstage brawl with Liv Morgan. Liv showed no remorse. In fact, she celebrated it. She went on a worldwide apology tour, mocking Ripley's injury and reveling in her pain. This was the moment the transformation was complete. The ultimate babyface, the woman whose championship win brought tears to the eyes of thousands, was now a monster who celebrated a fellow competitor's misfortune. She had become the villain she once fought against, and the WWE Universe was stunned. This wasn't a typical heel turn motivated by greed or jealousy. This was a deconstruction. Liv had taken everything that made her beloved: her heart, her resilience, her connection with the fans, and systematically destroyed it. She wanted the championship, yes, but she wanted it as a means to an end. Her true goal was suffering. She had won the vacant Women's World Championship, reaching the mountaintop once more, but this time there were no tears of joy. There was only a cold, satisfied smirk. Her victory felt less like a triumph and more like a grim inevitability. Her alliance with the Judgment Day, particularly with Dominic, became even more pronounced. The kiss they shared after she won the title, with Finn Balor and J.D. McDonough looking on in approval, was a shocking visual. It cemented her as not just an antagonist to Rhea Ripley, but as a usurper, one who was seemingly ready to take her place in the faction and in Dominic's life. She had taken Rhea's title, her spot, and was now taking her man. It was methodical, cruel, and brilliant. What makes this transformation so shocking is its completeness. We watched her entire journey. We cheered her struggles, we celebrated her victory, and we felt her heartbreak. And now, we're forced to watch as she uses the playbook of her greatest tormentors. She's not just a heel, she's a fallen hero. The light that the fans championed for so long has not just been extinguished, it has been inverted, becoming a source of darkness. She has weaponized her own history, using the fans' former affection for her as a tool to generate heat. She knows what they loved about her, and she deliberately spits on that memory every week. From the blue-tongued punk rocker in the Riott Squad, to the people's champion who cried tears of joy, and now to the cold, manipulative queen of chaos on a mission of vengeance. Liv Morgan's career is a testament to the power of evolution in professional wrestling. It is a long-form story of how adoration can curdle into apathy, how dreams can be shattered and reforged into nightmares, and how the brightest smiles can hide the most sinister intentions. The WWE Universe was stunned because they were invested in the person, not just the performer. They helped build her up, and now they are forced to watch as she burns down everything they helped create, leaving only the ashes of who she used to be. The revenge tour is far from over, and one thing is terrifyingly clear. The Liv Morgan we once knew and loved is gone forever. And in her place stands something far more dangerous and far more compelling.